I played with Ed Sheeran once at like a bar, like when I was like 16. You know what I mean? Like before he was Ed.
Really?
Yeah, like an open mic night in London. Run the intro.
There you go. Hello, everybody. From Frets and Fingers, I'm Alex Pickard, and you're watching the Jam Sesh. Today, we have the absolute pleasure of chatting with guitarist who needs no introduction, Mike Dawes. Leaving people speechless with his insane guitar arrangements of popular tunes, Mike has toured the world by himself and with other iconic musicians such as Tommy Emmanuel and Justin Hayward. His innovative techniques and soulful performances have earned him the Best Acoustic Guitar Player award for multiple years, and he has also amassed a huge following across social media platforms. Thank you for joining me all the way from the UK. Mike Dawes, welcome to the Jam Sesh.
Thanks, man. That's a very intimidating introduction, but happy to be here.
Awesome, man. Thank you so much for being here. And I guess for the people who don't know who you are, I know I just introduced you, but maybe just give a little background on yourself before we get going.
Yeah, well, as evidenced by the multitude of six-stringed instruments surrounding me, I'm a guitar player from the UK, and yeah, I play. Oh, I'm more known for playing a kind of modern fingerstyle acoustic kind of thing with where various beatings on instruments and alternate tunings and things like that. Solo instrumental, and I play concerts by myself for the nerds, and the nerds come out and see my concerts sometimes, and sometimes they come, sometimes they don't. And then that nerdery translates into opening for larger artists and also sessioning for some artists as well. And then you throw in your little sessions and done a few video games and TV and movies and things like that. But mainly live. Like touring is the passion. Maybe 200, 250 shows a year sometimes, which is a lot. And I just got off a call with my manager about 2025, and it's not going to slow down anytime soon. So.
Yeah, I was checking your touring schedule from last year and this year just before the interview there. It seemed like you said 200 shows, like you're packed, man. It's crazy. So how do you like kind of, I guess, balance that with your personal life?
Very good question. You have to ask my girlfriend if she's
Yeah.
still my. Yeah, absolutely. It's tough, man. I mean, I just finished a tour, a UK tour, literally 2 days ago, where I was the opening act, but also the guitar player for a man named Justin Hayward, who's the frontman and songwriter for the Moody Blues. So, Nights in White Satin and all those kind of classic songs. And I was dealing with a lot of actually quite tragic kind of personal stuff at the same time. And it's tough being on the road and kind of maintaining that. It is tough for sure. I've been doing this for maybe 10 or 11 years now, with the mainly tour focused lifestyle. So you do get used to it, but the important thing is to make sure that the people who you miss and maybe touch wood miss you are acknowledged and taken care of, and support what you're doing. It's tough. It's tough out there, but we love it, and it's the most wonderful feeling in the world, being able to travel the world and play your music for random Italians in Bologna. It's great.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and I heard you mentioned in an interview kind of the touring lifestyle. You need to be boots on the ground, which kind of requires you to not like sacrifice other things, but you end up in turn kind of like, you know, your friendships and your relationships kind of aren't. I don't know, like they're harder to I guess grow because you're so busy on the road.
So what I've ended up with is my group of mates, like my close mates, are also traveling, touring people, and we meet up in. I mean, just the other day, I met up with my friend Mike, who does lights for Devin Townsend and Tesseract and bands like that. And he was in London, same day I was in London. So we spent the day together, and that's when I'm seeing my mates. It's like he lives in Vancouver, and I live in Bristol, and my girlfriend lives in New York, so I'm there a lot. So, I have friends in. Tomorrow I'm flying to Vegas to stay with friends who live there. And you meet people who also have this kind of lifestyle, and you bond greater because here's the thing about touring, man. Everyone knows what it's like to make videos and put them on the internet because everyone with a smartphone uploads vlogs of themselves walking down the street talking about their sandwiches, whatever it may be, right? Not a lot of people know what it's like to know the quirks of the touring business. And what I found in my experience is trying to talk about your day in the office is not particularly relatable. Not only is it not relatable, it's like I found that people kind of, especially as I've got older, kind of just aren't interested. They're either not interested or they think that you think they'll be interested because on some level to a lot of people it sounds exciting. And that ends up pushing people away. So as I went through my 20s, I found that a lot of my older group of friends It's like, we had less and less in common as time went on. So therefore, my core friend group are people who either travel for not just music, but they just travel a lot for work, and you just end up having more in common with them, and yeah, and having a supportive family back home who understand why you're away a lot is really important as well. So I've been blessed with that for sure.
No, that's awesome, man. And like you're chasing your dreams and you're building out your audience. And like you said, I actually touch on that. I really like your kind of on tour shorts you've made recently. Had
Oh yeah.
posted at least one or two. I think they're pretty cool because it kind of does give a little bit of background to the touring.
Yeah, well, that's something that you do sacrifice is the ability to be good at social media. Like, I'm not, like, I'm of that age where I understand what to do on social media, but I don't have the drive and passion for it that perhaps someone 5 years younger than me would. The first iPhone came out when I was already in like university, like college age, so I like putting out music videos and stuff like that, but a lot of people when I started touring was what you did as a musician, playing shows. Now we exist in a world where you can never leave your studio or your house and make a living as a musician. You can do that now. You've got Twitch, you've got TikTok, Creator Fund, you've got YouTube, Google AdSense, you've got Patreon, you've got blah, 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 XYZ. That is a sacrifice. So when you're on the road and you've got flu and you're playing a show in Montana in like January or, Finland in December, and all you want to do is actually just be in your bed. I get very jealous of those who have been able to just create that home ecosystem and monetize that. But then I realized that my passion is kind of traveling and meeting people and being very extroverted and communicating with humans in a real level. So that makes the sacrifice worth it, if that makes sense. I literally can't remember what you asked. I'm coffeed up right now. So
No, that's good. Yeah, and I think in terms of that, like I talked to this guy named Jamie Robinson. He makes like he's a guitar teacher, but he's been and since COVID he had started when he got locked down and he kind of lost some of his students. He started teaching online and he was creating content. And he's amassed like a couple 100,000 followers across his platforms. And he's been able to, like you said, monetize from basically the comfort of his own home. But at the same time, you're maybe lacking that connection with your audience, where you get to go out and like bring the energy and play for people. I would love to part time play shows. You know what I mean? Not
that's the
have
thing,
like a
man.
full
Like
time tour.
everyone wants the balance.
Yeah.
Everyone wants the balance, and the thing is, you know, when you're in the touring circuit, the way it works is you have to go back to places regularly to get your guarantees to go up, which is the way of growing your show and growing your brand and growing your fan base on the road. It's not really a part-time thing to do that just because like there's just so many places, unless you just want to focus on say America East Coast and go there once a year and just do that, that's fine. But I've been to the Ram's Head in Maryland like 15 times, so there's more places in the world than just the East Coast of America. But yeah, it's hard to make that balance because especially with the social media people, like I have a lot of friends who are pro guitar players and all they do is music videos and they don't gig and they don't want to gig, right? And they make a good money because say they've just focused on Spotify or they've just focused on YouTube and they're doing very well in a traditional business metric. But they're also subject to more kind of anxiety and dare I say depression, not to use that word lightly, but just because everything is so quantifiable by metrics, in the sense that they can say, this song I released, people don't like as much as this song because they're all into their analytics and all of this. And when they do that all the time, it has an adverse effect on their mental health. I guess in the same way that someone who's on the road all the time can have bad mental health by just, missing home or whatever. But I feel like the gratification of a good show is like a closed bubble, and all you're focused on is that closed bubble of people in the room, right? If they like it, then you've done your job. But when the bubble isn't, 1,000 people or 500 people in a room, when the bubble is the entire world online, I feel like it's so hard to kind of feel positive about anything because it's like the grass is always greener because there's loads of people I haven't reached and blah blah blah. That's what I like about gigs. It's like, did the bubble approve? If the bubble approves, then you did well. And you've got to be pretty bad to make the bubble not approve. You know what I mean? They already bought the tickets; they're already committed.
Right.
But yeah, I feel like that infinite bubble of the social media landscape is quite intimidating for a lot of people, and causes a lot of problems for people's mental health for sure.
Yeah, there's a lot of haters online too who just, see a video, leave a comment, move on,
Yeah, no one's at the show being like, "You suck. You played that riff shit." Like
Yeah.
aren't
Yeah.
like that in real life. So yeah, you don't have to deal with that, which is great for sure.
Yeah, for sure. And I guess we'll touch on that. Like, when it comes for you to like when you're recording a music video, so like your Everlong cover, or I guess your arrangement,
Yeah.
what goes into that compared to like I guess when you're making it, you're obviously thinking about, okay, well I'm gonna have to play this live at some point too, because like you said, that's your favorite thing to do is play live. So when you're like, is there certain things you have to keep like take into account, I guess, when it comes to arranging, knowing you're gonna be playing it live?
Well, not really, because to record it, I have to play it.
Right.
It's like it has to. It. This is more of a question for the the um, the 30-second mega clip people who like throw everything in the kitchen sink into a 30-second clip. I think like with an acoustic guitar piece of music, you have to learn it, and you have to. Like, it exists in your fingers before it gets recorded, so it's not a big stretch to then play that live. That being said, uh, there are things you need to know about, like which songs will work well live, and which songs might just be more of a headache than they're worth. There's some songs I have that are technical nightmares, and they don't really work well live as songs. In which case, that's obviously a consideration when building a set. Um, and I've definitely tried to calm down on the when I was younger, I was writing tunes that were so unreasonably technically complicated. And they're fine, and I love playing them live because they're in my DNA at this point. I've been playing them for 10 years. It's fine. It's not scary to play them. But newer songs are terrifying. And there are sometimes I'll avoid playing certain songs because I'm afraid to just mess them up. But since I've been working with Tommy Emmanuel a lot, I've learned to kind of let go of that fear somewhat and just realize that the audience can be very forgiving and encouraging. So yeah, that's something to consider as well, I suppose. Just yeah,
Yeah, and you're always your biggest critic, right? Like people are there to hear you
yeah,
play and enjoy themselves. So if you make a little mistake, you're probably not that you'll be the only one who notices, but the
yeah.
only one who actually cares. Yeah.
Like Everlong, you mentioned, I recorded that and released it, and then I just went on tour in Italy and I played it every night of that tour. And it was funny because I just released it. Everyone was super stoked to hear it because I'd never played it live before. And to be fair, that song's not the hardest thing to play. It's like kind of there's lots of repetition. There's lots of kind of rhythmic kind of patterns and sequences that are copy and paste. But there's a few runs and things that are hard, and occasionally I'd kind of mess one up a little bit. But no one cared. Like
Right.
no one was just like, oh, like the energy was still good. So keep
I think it's
tempo.
kind of funny.
If like the rhythm's good, then people can. If you're interrupting the foot tapping, then you've got a problem. You can mess up a
Right.
run. If people are still kind of tapping their foot along, then you can be a little slop if you need to be.
Yeah, I think it's funny you mentioned that it's not that technically difficult because I feel like in the chorus section of Everlong, like that whole I don't know how to explain it, but that whole section where you kind of have a lot of percussive like percussion in it, that part, like I remember just watching and kind of laughing out loud because
Oh
of
yeah,
just how ridiculous it was. It sounded so good, but it was just like how can you coordinate that? Anyways, I know it's just practice,
I mean,
but
just like when you have two hands and different fingers, you're talking about the drum fill bit, like it's down, 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 tick it, tick it, tick it, yeah,
yeah,
yeah. It is kind of stupid, and the
it's not
unfortunate
stupid,
thing.
but it's
Oh no,
crazy.
no,
But
but it's like
yeah,
it is kind of like ridiculous that that's on a guitar. But
yeah,
live, the hard thing live is the pickups on the guitar with that because you have to hit at a certain volume to have that drum fill have impact. And I've had to move where I do that live into an area that's closer to like where the microphone picks up the sound of it. So I've had to kind of rejig that a little bit somewhat live. In the studio, it's fine because you've got a condenser mic like here, and you can just tap and then you put some compression on it and it sounds great. So yeah, that one fill is a little bit annoying, I must admit. But the rest of the song is pretty just grooving.
really. Okay, yeah, no, that's probably one of my favorite. Like obviously, like you try to make the best stuff. You try and release your best stuff. That's probably one of my favorites. And my other one is I just recently rewatched it because I watched your interview with Rick Beato like back when
Hmm.
it came out, and you're all along the Watchtower. There's something about that like arrangement. It just like I don't know what it is, man. Like it hits hard, man. So
Thanks, man. Well, you know what? I've never released that properly, but I just got off a call with my manager, and we're going to release that on because I shot a video for it in Iceland. I went to the Black Beach of Vik in Iceland, next to the waterfalls, and I shot a really cool music video for that. Because, dare I say, I'm releasing my third studio album this summer, and Everlong, although it was not announced, that's on it. Um,
okay.
from May onwards, I'll be putting out a song every month and announcing the album, and All Along the Watchtower will come out at the end of May with a proper video. So I'm glad you said you like that one because that's the next like one of my solo things that's going to be released, and that'll be at the end of May. So yeah, thanks for the
Awesome.
compliment. I appreciate that
Yeah,
because
no,
it's
that
not
yeah,
an
that sounds
abstract
that.
cover. It's an
Sorry.
abstract one. It's an abstract cover. It's not
Right.
like Everlong where it's kind of very faithful to the original. It's a much more abstract one. So we're going to try
And
and
you
release it on Bob Dylan's birthday.
on who? Sorry.
Bob Dylan, the guy who
Oh,
wrote
Bob
the
Dylan's birthday. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Of course. Yeah, and I think I saw an interview. You mentioned it was a kind of a your version of. I guess it must have been Rick Beato's interview, but it's not the original. You're not going off the original song. It's more of a. There was someone else. There was some
yeah.
guy. You said it was
So
his
Michael
like
Hedges.
sort of his
Yeah.
yes.
So basically, obviously, like Jimmy covered Bob, Jimi Hendrix, but so Michael Hedges is the guy who kind of basically invented, what does that mean in modern guitar discourse? But invented the style of guitar that I play, and I'm certainly very influenced by. And he did a version of All Along the Watchtower in the tuning that I'm using. So I took the tuning as inspiration from him, but he does it as a kind of more strummy thing with vocals, like singing it. And I wanted to do a kind of slightly reharmonized homage to that, but I'm just like playing the melody lines and reharmonizing the melodies because I don't sing. So and then doing kind of my own thing with it. But there's references to it. There's like a little which is actually in the Jimi Hendrix version, but I took it from the Michael Hedges version. So anyway, it's a big influence, and Michael Hedges is always getting nods on my record. So my album Era, the first song is a Michael Hedges dedication, and this would be the one from the upcoming album.
Very cool. That's awesome. And you talked about touring with Tommy Emmanuel. Yeah, like how's that been? Because like he's insane,
Dude,
man. Like
yeah, well, he's the greatest of all time. So it's an insane privilege to realize that I've been blessed with that opportunity. It's not like going on tour with just a cool band or a friend or anything like that. It's like, I mean, he's everything. He is a cool band and a friend and all. It's it's indescribable. He's like one of the best humans that's ever existed, not just as a guitar player. So it's awesome. It's the best thing ever, and I'm really grateful for it. We're actually doing a huge tour of Europe together later this year. We're doing Germany and Switzerland and Finland and Norway and Denmark and Sweden, and that's fun. I've never been to Sweden, and yeah, I open for him. It's his show, obviously. He's Tommy, but then he very graciously brings me out at the end, and we do a few tunes together as well. So we released an EP together a few years ago called Accomplice Volume 3, which is there's 5 tracks, and that's available on Spotify and places like that. So, yeah, I mean, what else is there to say? It's like every day's a guitar lesson, every day's a life lesson. The guy's just a spiritual force for good. Amazing.
that's awesome. Yeah, no, it's good you're able to like kind of team up with him with that because I know he's played with a lot of like heavy hitters. You know, there was like Phil Collin from Def Leppard, Joe Satriani, Molly Tuttle.
Dude,
Who
the
else?
guy,
I
the
had a
guy
couple.
played with like Tina Turner, played with like Olivia Newton-John, like everyone. The Sydney Olympics. He closed the Sydney Olympics. Like it's ridiculous. It's honestly
Yeah.
ridiculous. He did two.
So,
Yeah, well, he's the king. He's the greatest of all time. And yeah, it's a humbling privilege to be in the same room, let alone share the bill.
yeah, no, that's great. And I guess talk about that. Like for you, I would consider you were like I don't know when it was. I feel like I got to know who you were when there was that. I think it was a TED talk or something that came out with you, and you were doing somebody I used to know. I don't know if it was a TED talk.
Oh, I think
Maybe
it
it was
was
just
just a
look.
gig.
Oh,
I
it was
think
just a gig. For me, I think it was a long time ago. I thought it was a TED talk, just maybe with the way the stage looked like.
yeah, I know what you mean. Actually, it is very TED Talk adjacent. Yeah, I think
Um,
that's like a viral video where I'm kind of breaking down the song whilst playing it, kind of thing.
Yes. So, it's been 10 years and now you're seeing a couple more like younger guys coming or younger people coming out like Alex Misco and
Oh yeah,
who's the other one? It was Marcin something
yeah.
yeah, those two are like phenomenal as well, So I don't know like before like I know you mentioned you had your influences on your style of playing, but I feel like you're also sort of like influencing others as well, you know what I mean? Like in
I
this
guess that's
realm.
yeah. That's a an inevitable consequence of being around for a certain amount of time, I suppose. Yeah, I know Alex. His early YouTube videos, a lot of them were covering songs from my first record. And Alex is a dear friend. He's awesome. I love him. He's tirelessly enthusiastic about guitar and music, and his arrangements have only got better with time. He's just a really hardworking guy, and he needs our support, man, because he's a Russian guy, and he's had to go through some shit to just like exist right now. And I know he was going to do a UK tour, not pretty recently, but he couldn't get his visa because of politics. I'd imagine it. Go and support Alex, man. He deserves all your support. So I appreciate you mentioning his name, and Marcin as well. I mean, Marcin very graciously gave me a big shout out um, in some press. We've known each other online for a long time. We met in Boston a few years ago. I was doing a show there. We got some real hang time. He's a great guy, super terrifyingly confident young man, right? So he's just like whatever he touches, he just hits it with 1,000% enthusiasm. Both Alex and Martin, really great players. Um, yeah, and I'm interested to see who they inspire. What kind of mythical Hydra beast will come from that. From Generation Alpha.
Yeah. Oh, that's pretty funny. Yeah, I'm actually supposed to interview Alex next week or the week after. Actually, he'd
Oh
agreed to
no,
do an interview as well,
yeah,
so
say,
I'm
say
pretty
I'm
stoked
yeah.
for that. I know I
Yeah,
will
yeah.
for sure.
We're gonna do a collab at some point. Tell him that we're definitely gonna do that. We've been Instagram messaging back and forth. We just need to find time to make it happen. So, yeah, we want to do like a mega fingerstyle kind of collab at some maybe later this year or something. We'll see.
For sure. And for you, like in terms of your style of playing, like in the last 5 years, I'm gonna just say 10 years. You said you. I'm not like a stalker or anything, but I think I saw in an interview you said you've been playing since you were 12 or something. 12 years
Yeah,
old.
just regular old electric guitar playing, Guns N' Roses and Green Day and stuff like that. And
Yeah.
I switched, I switched to acoustic when I was 17. Um, with a few bumps along the way, I got tendonitis in both hands, so I couldn't play for like 8 months. And then I also cut a finger off, so I have like a finger that's like sewn back on, a fingertip.
Really.
Yeah, it's pretty gross. So
It's like
yeah,
a
fingerguts.
bicycle chain, or
Sorry?
you lose it on a bicycle chain, or
No, 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 nothing gnarly. Although my dad told me that because he used to live in the same town as me when he was like my age, and he said that he saw a guy get his hand caught in a chain that was attached to a car, and it got ripped off.
oh my god.
I don't know why we went there, but he just reminded
Yeah.
me. No, in a door.
Uh, door. Yeah, we kind of went from you started playing guitar when you were
Yeah,
12 to someone's hand
a
getting ripped off.
horrific
But
door.
yeah, fun fact, I was actually 13 years old. My first guitar was also a Fender Tele Squire,
Oh, nice,
which I think was
nice.
yours. Um,
Yeah, that was my first. It was a Squire Telly, but it was cream colored, and I didn't think that that was cool because when you're 12, everything has to be cool. So I traded it for a Tobacco Sunburst Les Paul because I was a big fan of Slash, so I wanted to be Slash. And I grew my hair. It didn't go curly and big; it went long and down. And yeah, the rest is history, really. So I love that stuff. Like I'm a rock metal guy at heart, which is why I've been collaborating with some metal bands recently. Um, and yeah, yeah, good old days.
yeah, and sorry, I was bringing this up because I would say like in the last, let's say, 5 years, how do you feel like um, I guess your playing style has progressed. Like I am one of my favorite guitar players of all time is Lindsey Buckingham from Fleetwood Mac, and just seeing him from the 70s, 80s, 90s. Now even now he's quite a bit older, but he's still now he has a whole. I feel like his playing style's kind of still him, but it is evolved into something a little bit different, right? And so for you,
Yeah,
where do you think? Do you kind of see yourself like transitioning a bit in that sense?
yeah, yeah. I think it's firstly it's for others to judge, but I'm actually putting out my third studio album this summer, and listening to it, it's a much better arranged body of work. when I was younger, I was throwing kind of everything at the kitchen sink at an arrangement. Every little 16th note, and some songs had to be covered by something. Not as much as it is now. Nowadays, with Gen Z and the TikTokification of music, it's even more. It's more like throw someone else's kitchen sink, and everyone 10 kitchen sinks, please. Uh, but now I've chilled out on focusing on the technique, because the technique has now been learnt. It's been absorbed, and now everything's done as a producer would do. So, for example, the Everlong arrangement that I put out, if you focus on the percussion element, for example, every section it grows and develops. It's all on the string, on just the backbeat. Then it develops into having some kicks. Then it develops into being on the wood. Then it develops into fills, and then it sucks back out again, and it's back to the clicks. In the same way that a producer making a pop record would deal with different parts coming and going. They'd come in blocks. You can visualize the Pro Tools session. It's not just chaos and fills and doing this all the time. It's structured more. So that's something that was kind of subconscious just from being around music for longer. But it's something that's now a little bit intentional. And there's a few tracks coming out at the end of April / beginning of May that are collaborations with a band that a lot of people will know, I think. And that is an example of really adding other instrumentation and synthesizers and extra things on top of the guitar, as well as vocals, things like that. So I think that's where things are going, especially on the new record. There's a lot of extra, instrumentation involved, some more collaborations, things like that. And since I've been working with Tommy, I've really fallen in love with collaboration. So I'm going to work more with others and share the musical journey a little bit more, I think.
Right, and I think collaborations are great, and that was a question I had for you too. From the side, in terms of social media, like I've noticed you're on quite a big couple channels there. Like I wrote them here. They're Premier Guitar, Rick Beato, Andertons, Justin Guitar, Michael Palmisano, Tommy Emmanuel. Like the list goes on. So like for you, like doing these collaborations, not only from your side of things where you're enjoying like playing music with other people, but like in terms of a social media impact, how have you noticed your follower base? Has it grown significantly by kind of being on these other people's channels, like kind of bringing in?
You get bumps when you do those things, yeah. But when I'm on the road, I don't really do those things. So it goes back to what I was saying before about, yes, collaborating with someone who happens to have a big following is going to get you a little bit of a bump for sure. But the nature of my lifestyle is not to really focus so much on that, probably to my own detriment. For example, when I went on Rick, I was literally ignorant as to the power of his reach. I can't remember who hit up who. I don't know if it was him that reached out to me, or no. I think I just said, "Oh, hey, I'll be in Atlanta doing a show. Do you want to come to the show?" And then he said something like, "Oh, I can't make the show, but do you want to come to the studio and we'll shoot a video about, fingerstyle technique?" I was like, "Yeah, sure." I didn't really know it was like a big deal because I just didn't spend a lot of time in that ecosystem absorbing videos at that point. And when I went there, he just said, "Oh man, you just got to play a song. Just play a song." And that's why I played All Along the Watchtower. It wasn't even finished. It wasn't even like, so I didn't go there having practiced a song that I was supposed to play. It was like, we put some bass amps up because I didn't have my rig or anything. It was just like, oh, we'll plug into these bass amps and yeah, that'll sound fine, cool. And it did. He did a great job with the sound. Of course, he's an amazing producer. But it was very rough and ready. And honestly, I think that's the kind of thing which gets you more of a following. It's the rawness and realness of the content itself, rather than, you can't just go on to Andertons and just be a random guy and not inspire people to do anything and not have a message and not deliver anything. So I think with Rick, the video I did with Rick, it was a perfect storm of, obviously his reach is massive, but we were just two guys having fun on camera. And that's the same thing with Lee Anderton. I've known those guys for years. Same with Justin Sandercock. I've known him since like 2011, So yeah, I think collaborations are important, but the content itself is number one always. And if you go in there thinking, "Oh, I'm getting great opportunity to kind of flex on camera," no, just be honest, because people aren't idiots. People can tell when you're putting on an act. Um, Life's too short not to be honest, and be honest in the right place. I guess have fun and be honest in the right place. Rinse and repeat. And if you love what you're doing, hopefully other people will resonate with it as well.
Yeah, no, 100%. I think for in your, especially with your interviews, I've seen you on like the different channels. You kind of hit the head for like the gear nuts, but then also the acoustic guitar players. Like you're very well rounded in a lot of the different like areas of guitar. Because like for myself, I love playing guitar, but like when it comes to gear, like don't you can't even like I can't
It's
like
so
I
funny, dude. I
yeah.
just yesterday did a whole video shoot with Guitarist magazine about gear. Like it was just about gear. Like not even a song, not a lesson, nothing. Just talking about gear. So that's quite funny you said that.
Yeah, no, like and like for me, like I like to like do interviews with different musicians. Obviously, like for you, like for me right now, this is the biggest like chance I've had to talk to you. And for me, like I've been a fan of you for like years. So when you agreed to do this, I was like, no way. You know what I
Dude,
mean?
that's pretty sweet. That's super sweet.
uh, so like doing this for me, like I like to talk about social media and business because that's kind of where I'm trying to figure out my own kind of like when I look at you it's crazy that someone who doesn't sing and just plays acoustic guitar can actually go and have his own tour and shows. And you watch the shows, obviously you bring the energy, you're jumping, doing kicks, and all this fun stuff. So it's interesting you've built out your own niche,
Gotta
just
be
doing
like,
exactly what you love. Sorry.
yeah, yeah. So that's I think this is something that's echoed by someone like Ed Sheeran on a massive scale. Ed Sheeran's like when you go see Ed Sheeran, you're just seeing Ed Sheeran. You're not seeing the Ed Sheeran show. You're literally just watching a dude doing the same thing. I played with Ed Sheeran once at like a bar, like when I was like 16. You know what I mean? Like before he was Ed.
Really?
Yeah, like an open mic night in London. Like literally, it's the same shit, dude. Just in a stadium. You know, um, and there's an attraction to that, and especially nowadays, man. Like there's so much fakery and so much curation that people absorb every day. Everything is polished, everything is tweaked, everything is overthought 10,000 times, everything is filtered. I was literally just talking to my friend the other day about a tour he was on where the opening act, fronted by a very well known guitar player, it was on auto tune and some of the vocals were on tracks, literally miming. And it's just, I think there's a reason that this new album that is coming out, I don't know if I can tell you the title because I haven't announced it yet, but the first track is like a 7 minute long epic journey thing. And it's my favorite thing I've ever written. And it's almost it's almost a response to what's going on culturally, which is that is just the in fact the whole album's kind of a response to just the immense oversaturation and anxiety of people's minds. It's like goes back to that analogy I was saying about the crowd. We used to live in these small bubbles, these small community bubbles, and now we've got the whole world pumped at us all the time, and we're trying to come up with ways to curate what we do and make it as algorithmically hackable as possible to try and get our head above that water. The antidote to that is just honesty. Like be Ed Sheeran, be yourself, and if what yourself is something that there's an appeal to in terms of the show, then that will continue to grow. I just think the public has so much less tolerance for fakery than people think. I think just being honestly yourself is such an important part of any entrepreneurial kind of thing, especially music, art, filmmaking, anything like that. Honest self-expression, which is why a lot of guitar players don't like me because when I do gigs, I act like an idiot because I am an idiot. You know what I mean? I'm not the guy with the fucking real book in his back pocket who's going to bust out giant steps. I'm not. I'm a Neanderthal. And if you want to go and see a Neanderthal jump around and play guitar, then this is the show for you. You know.
Yeah.
Uh, and that's fine. I'm not going to hide that. Um, so yeah, be honest, kids. Be honest and try not to suck.
Yeah, and I think I've talked to a couple people like Lessons with Marcel. He's another YouTuber, and then there's this business guy I watch. It's funny you're kind of echoing what they say as well. It's like you always just be yourself, provide some value, and like you mentioned that going into your interviews, you're just being yourself. You're giving some sort of value, so people are enjoying it, and I think that's probably the biggest thing with social media. If you want to be successful, is just like you said, be yourself and try not to sell out, I guess, or
I
be
think
fake.
people also feel like they're owed attention. because their whole lives revolve around looking at other people who have attention. And people get very disheartened when, oh, shock horror, people don't care about what you have for breakfast. Like you say, you have
Right.
to add value. You have to be providing something to the marketplace.
Right.
Um, you know, that's just kind of, people only have so many hours in the day. They don't owe you any of that time. You've got to
Right.
create something that people want.
Yeah. So you were talking about Prince of Persia. Well, you
Oh
said
yeah.
you were doing soundtracks for movies. So how do you, or sorry, for video games? How did you go about that? Did they reach out to you, kind of thing?
No, no. So that was actually the first kind of, I believe it's the first kind of video game that I've been involved with, and it didn't come from Ubisoft or the developers. It came, so I was a hired gun for that soundtrack by the composer of the soundtrack, who is my friend Mentrix. So her name's Samar. Her artist name is Mentrix. She's an amazing Iranian musician, and she reached out to me to do some kind of heavy metal guitar stuff on it, which was super super cool. Because who doesn't want to do a screeching guitar lead when a giant snake attacks a man with two swords? So that's pretty cool. They haven't even sent me a copy of the game though, so I'm going to buy one and then play it. Although I'll probably wince at the thought of hearing my own guitar play. I never listen to my own stuff, so that's the thing. I find it really awkward. But yeah, that came from just a musician who was hired to do the soundtrack, reaching out to me to help with some guitars.
Oh, very cool. So why you don't like listening to your own stuff, eh?
No, why would you? Yeah, yeah. Well, okay. I like listening to it until it's done. Once it's done, then it belongs to the world, and I don't want to listen to it because all I'm going to hear is its flaws and things that, oh, I wish I would change this. Once you put a full stop on it, a period on it, and once it's done, then it's done,
Hmm.
and then you've got to go on to the next thing. Yeah, I think a lot of musicians are like that, to be honest. Um, because if you listen to something and hear something you don't want to hear, then you're just going to feel like, oh my god, horrible. So yeah, it belongs to the world now.
That's actually pretty funny. I didn't ever think of that, but that does make a lot of sense because yeah, you are like we said, yeah, you're your own worst critic. So
Yeah.
um, now I have a question I always ask all the musicians. For your first gig you ever did, how much were you paid?
Well, obviously nothing. Um, that's been like as a child. Yeah, well, we're talking like first professional gig that you got paid. What did you get paid?
Yeah, kind of like that. Like I don't know
Yes,
however you feel like answering it.
well, my first gig was Bandfest 2003 at a village hall in a town called Greyshot in southern England, and my band Shrapnel played for 30 minutes, ending on a cover of Pantera's Walk. And you know, 13-year-old kids, they ain't getting paid to play shows. I think we got candy. You know, we got some sweets. But the first time I actually started doing gigs and getting paid, um, it would be open mic nights where I was selling homemade CDs for £1, and I'd sell about 10 or 15 of them a night, make about 15 quid, which is like $20. But then the first time I actually got paid by a venue, it would have been like £50, which is like $75, $70, and that would have been to open for a touring artist. Now, £50 back then is more like £100 now. Um,
Right.
Not that I'm that old; it's just inflation's ridiculous. Um, so yeah, and I was doing quantity a lot. I still am, where it's just I love to play, so I would play, and I'd usually make more money selling merchandise. So you get your menial fee, and then sell your CDs on top, and that's kind of been a model that's just grown ever since. I think, yeah, that's the answer. Let's just say 50 quid.
50
That's,
quid.
that's for a real gig. 50 quid playing 20 minutes before an international touring artist back in like 2009. Yeah.
Right. That's pretty cool, man. And I guess now you kind of monetize yourself in multiple different ways. Like you said, now you have your shows. You got your. Do you have you sell merch like CD, obviously the CDs, but do you have like shirts and hats and different stuff like that?
Yeah, yeah, I do. Not hats or anything. The main thing, surprisingly, is CDs and tuition. So when I'm playing with an older audience or to an older audience, they do love buying CDs, and it's a very supportive way. of contributing to the merch side of things. It's a really great format to listen to music on. I'm a big fan of how audio sounds on CDs. But a lot of people like these guitar tuition things that I have on USBs, because even if they don't play guitar, someone they know would, and it's a nice little signed gift for someone to encourage them to keep playing. So that's the kind of thing that's on the merch table. Shirts I have, but I did a tour with Periphery last year, and shirts were the big seller on that because the audience is like a younger kind of rock band kind of thing. But shirts aren't huge sellers for older audiences. For them, it's more like, what gifts can I get for people I know who play guitar, and it's that kind of thing.
Right, and those USBs are actually pretty cool looking. I don't know, like anyone watching hasn't seen them, but if they have the little guitars, like
They are, man.
it's
Yeah,
actually pretty cool.
I have some around me. They're upstairs, I think. Yeah, a lot of work went into that. So it's a 9 hour long guitar course with 133 pages of guitar tab. So it's a massive amount of stuff. It's like 12 gigabytes of stuff. And they come on these guitar-shaped USBs that are in these branded boxes, all made on recycled cardboard, and they're all autographed and all of that. So people pick them up from my website internationally, but at shows they usually like to get those after the shows to kind of either learn, because I teach all the stuff I play in the shows I teach on the stick, So if they're like, oh, I want to learn how to do that, that's the perfect place to go. So people really like that, and I love physical media, even though it's we are in a digital age. Having something tangible that someone can take home and put in their pocket after a show, I think people really appreciate. So they cost a lot to make, but fortunately people like them. So yeah, as long as people keep liking them, I'll keep making them.
Yeah, and you've put time. Like, you can tell it's not just like some USB in a box. You've taken time. You made a nice. It's very presentable, and like I said, for a gift even for people. So yeah, it makes
Spread the
sense why
love.
people like them.
Spread the love of the weird guitar style.
Yeah, there you go. So, and I guess besides that, you have your YouTube. I wrote some stuff down here. So you got your YouTube, you got your solo tour. You're touring with Justin Hayward, touring with Tommy Emmanuel. You got some guitar camps, I think, with Andy McKee and Tommy Emmanuel's guitar camp, right?
Yeah, blessed to be a
Um,
part of those.
right. Yeah. So how? Yeah. Talk to me about those guitar camps actually. How is that
They're
doing
awesome,
those?
man. So the guitar camps are so fun because people actually get to come, and I think the Tommy camp in September, or it's like late August, is very close to selling out. So if anyone sees this and there are tickets available, maybe you could get in, maybe not. But it's in Nashville, and it's like multiple days, like a long weekend. We did one in Iceland last year, which was insane. Like it was just like the coolest thing ever. And that's where I shot my along the Watchtower video actually. Um, and yeah, people just stay. It's residential, and they wake up and they get taught by hopefully some of their favorite guitar players all day. And it's great for the teachers because we typically bring our partners because we're in one place for about 5 days, which is a rare thing when you're on the road a lot. So it's win-win. They're awesome, and a company called Dreamcatcher Events runs them, and they do Steve Vai's camp, Joe Satriani, all these kind of amazing guitar camps, and they're well worth checking out. If you haven't kind of jumped onto a Dreamcatcher camp, it's a really really good educational thing for people, but it's also a hang, because everyone's just hanging out. It's not like there's a barrier between Tommy Emmanuel and the people. They're just all hanging out, having breakfast and lunch together, and doing the activities together and things. It's great. They're awesome. Dreamcatcher events literally changed the game. They're amazing.
Right. That's kind of cool because you get like people who are joining those camps. They kind of have like a variety of, I guess, styles of musicians. So, and you can kind of sit in on whatever classes you want. I'm assuming, right? You don't have to
Yeah,
go to certain one.
exactly, exactly. Well, I mean, it's you could just not go to any, but then why are you there?
Yeah,
You know?
exactly.
Yeah, usually people get put into groups or something like that.
Okay, cool. And in terms of touring, I wrote a couple of places you've been. I actually took your exact line was UK, US, a boat, Germany, Austria, Switzerland, Norway, Sweden, Denmark, and Finland for this year. I saw last year you were in London, Ontario, which is actually quite close to me. I'm in the
Oh, that's where
capital
you're from.
city.
Yeah, I was at. I can't remember what the venue was, but that was with Justin Hayward. That was
Yeah,
a Canada tour. That was a lot of fun.
yeah. So yeah, I'm from Ontario. I'm from the capital city, Ottawa, and
Oh, right.
yeah. So I'm just curious. Do you have it? I didn't see any tour dates in Canada, or sorry, in my area this year.
Yeah,
But are those something that you thinking about coming back to Canada, or?
yeah. I was. Oh man, I was offered a tour opening for Tommy Emmanuel in Canada in October because he's going to be there in October. But I can't. I had to turn it down because I had another commitment. So, regrettably, I would have been there in October, but I'm not. I hate that because I really want to be. So maybe 2025, once the new album's out, maybe I'll try and get up there. But I think my agent for North America also manages some other Canadian guitar players, so we'll try and figure out some kind of tour that makes sense. Yeah, hopefully, fingers crossed.
Yeah. Okay. Well, if you're ever in this end of town, I'll definitely come check you out.
That's fine. Okay.
Or check out your playing. Sorry, not you. Yeah, I don't know. So I do these. I would love at some point, in the years to come, I do these videos where I go up to people on the street and just ask them to play a riff for my channel. Like that's kind of my social media way in. You know what I mean? I've been just doing that, walking on the street, just asking random people, whoever plays, then they throw a riff for the channel. So at some
Yeah,
point, if you're ever in Canada, I would love to do a collab with you on that.
that's good.
Just
Let's do some riffs, public riffs.
yeah, and I'll ask you one last one there. I'll let you go. I know you got a busy busy night ahead of you there. So since you started your musical journey, or I guess
Yeah.
your guitar career, what is something you're most proud of?
I think the variation of experiences that the acoustic guitar has provided. I think I've been very fortunate to, through whatever reason, cosmic fate or coincidence, I've been able to experience more of a variety of musical situations than I think most musicians would. Last year, for example, I got to share the stage with Justin Hayward from the Moody Blues and play his songs. I got to open for Christopher Cross. I got to open for the Aristocrats. I got to open for Periphery. I got to open for Tommy Emmanuel. Like these are not the same scenes. These are very different audiences. I got to also play with a symphony orchestra at one of the oldest venues on the planet, at the Odeon, the Acropolis in Athens, with a symphony orchestra under a full moon, looking at the literal Acropolis. It was just like how, why is this weird kid from England doing this? And that's something I know is not common. Typically, if you're in a band, you do the circuit, and that's your scene. If you're in a metal band, you go and play the same venues with the same opening act. So I think I'm most proud of the variation of opportunities I've been afforded. Um, and I'm also very grateful for the people around me who I'm close with actually uh, sticking by me and not, getting annoyed, not getting too annoyed that I'm away a lot, because it's tough out there. It's worth it, but you got to have your people, and I've got great people around me, so lots of love to them.
That's cool. That's awesome, man. And I guess for you, you want to shout anything out for for anything upcoming for yourself, people you want people to know about?
Sure. Well, the end of April, I'm going to release two tracks with a very surprising collaboration, which I hopefully people are going to be stoked about. And then a new music video on my channel, which is YouTube/Mike Dawes Official, leading up to the announcement and release of my third studio album, which is going to come out this summer. I'll do a big US tour in August, headline. Lots of Europe stuff with Tommy Emmanuel in the fall. And next year I'm going to just hit the whole world headlining and playing loads of stuff from all the albums. So looking forward to seeing people out there.